different systems change far, or you see the dynamics of power changing, or in some instances, parties switching sides. So that's why, in my opinion, it's just really imperative to just have very not only intentional dialogue, but being realistic about what can you accomplish in a legislative cycle. For instance, not only is midterm turnout up to the roof, but also there's more issue organizing happening. And right now, both Democrats and Republicans are really trying to get a handle on it. $8.8 billion got spent this election cycle. Democrats spent $500 million more on the Senate side, Republicans on the tax side. And now we're seeing the advent of how Citizens United has impacted our political system. So really not even making everything center on Democrats and Republicans, but now in this next Congress, the reality is folks have to deliver instead of argue. You campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. And even though the margins are getting slimmer for some, historically, it's always usually been that way. And now that we have the bucking the trend of historically, like the president's party getting wiped out totally, now you have a coalescing of coalitions, partnerships, and then constituencies. And the two constituencies I use for example are Black people, Spanish-speaking people. These are two groups of people that both partisan institutions don't understand and doing double time in order to figure out. Republicans have ran more diverse candidates, whereas Democrats have spent more money in diverse communities. So really just taking the time to also see where the receipts, because a lot of people can pay lip service to these items and things, but at the end of the day, what is the outcome? What are we working toward, and what can you point to? And where is it that we probably maybe don't see eye to eye, but where can we focus on? Because when we build more on where we agree, we should be able to move the ball further, not only for freedom, but also combating against like the terrorism that we've seen in other countries. And right now, really, the reality is, even though we come from different places, we're fighting the same things. The only difference is we're just probably taking different approaches. So this is really important to why we have these exchanges and programs to like further tear down these barriers, because at some point it's really about the change and not necessarily the gripping or funneling of resources in different places, because really that's what most American people and most people want from their government: responsible stewardship of resources and not really like filtering them off in other places.
Thank you. That was very interesting. And can you, as I know, you live in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So it's also very hard state and political issues work. And can you maybe express one and explain to us one express case about working with local authorities of Philadelphia, for example? Because in other countries, which is not federation, for us it's understandable that we should have municipal level, like assembly represent us, and like government level, yes, you work with parliament or government. But here you also work with like local government, like this state, for example, Philadelphia. Can you give some your case, for example, of lobbying or advocacy, some issues on the level of state? Because we have business of IGAPA only with lobbies from US, and we discuss a lot about this work with authorities. Maybe you can represent our international community also about working with state.
At the state level,
yeah.
One state in particular I would look to is Kentucky. Even though federally it has a reputation of being a conservative state, it at times has the ability to be a very awkward progressive. For instance, in 2015, that legislative cycle, former Governor Steve Beshear signed an executive order restoring the voting rights of nonviolent felons. And at that time here, I was working with Kentucky for the Commonwealth. So we were really intentional about engaging both Democrat and Republican legislators and really having intentional conversations about the outcome we want. And also both parties don't take this and spin it for your own purposes and outcomes. And largely, even though it was signed as an executive measure, it was a testament to how to not so much focus on partisanship, because if we focused only on partisanship, way less things would get done, but also pointing to that as a motivation or a means to an end. And although like Matt Bevin came behind him and did that executive order, it's one of those examples I like to use when people are overly focused on federal politics, because it's dominating the media, when in all actuality, what people fail to realize about Roe v. Wade, it really kicked back a lot of issues that are going to probably be decided either at the state level judicially or hitting toward a ballot or some sort of state house fight. And as of now, it's looking like when you make something an issue, abortion right now is really failing in America, and hopefully that trend continues. But keeping it at issues instead of personalities, that's really where the focus should be.
Thank you so much. Very interesting experience. And we have two more speakers on general discussion, and then we will go to discussion about Ukrainian advocacy, and we will prepare also to the next day, which will be about Ukrainian advocacy and bills which connect with Ukraine. And we wanted to also speak about cases and so I have a question to you also as a person who works with international press. What's the role of tool of media work? Because I don't mention a lot about like publicity at all, but also what the main tools of working for lobbyists and for people in the advocacy sector with international media and with local media, and maybe you can give some life hacks of working with American media, yeah, because you know, I can explain you a little bit that in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, sometimes like people corporations just go to media or their own media, and they put their agenda direct to their own media, because like one oligarch or one very rich person have his media and he just only push his points and like his main bills to this media. In the United States, it's completely different, because you must really work with media, you must really create press conferences, informational waves, and so on and so forth. So maybe you can explain to us some also tool and basics of work with these issues in the United States and internationally, which you work on. Yeah.
Thank you for the chance. Actually, I don't have much still experience working with the media. What I asked the first presenter is how we just create a kind of training that media collectively work to reverse the Russian scenario. You know, especially traveled in Africa, in several countries of Africa. And most of the people, you know, perceive that, you know, the Ukrainian war is a proxy war, it's a Western proxy war. But I just using this opportunity, I wanted to just to talk about other big events, which is going for the last 2 years. That is the Ethiopian civil war. So, or the Ukrainian war really overshadowed the Ethiopian civil war. Otherwise, you know, there is almost more than 500,000 people perished or dead in Ethiopia because of the civil war. There was a kind of international version war because Eritrea, that part, Russia was providing, you know, military. China, Turkey, and Iran were providing drones and other, you know, materials and finance to the government. And on the other side, you know, there are some countries supporting, like, you know, Egypt and other countries, you know, and directly supporting the Tigray region. And you know, there was very wide human rights violations, including rape and killing children, and the infrastructure was totally demolished or damaged, especially the right regions of Ethiopia, because originally from Ethiopia, but now a U.S. citizen. I just went to university there, school there, so I know that country. It's the second largest country in Africa. Is the seat of African Union and many international organizations. But now a lot of infrastructure was made, and the country's military almost occupied and divided. So even the international media, most of them, I don't know how many of you just know about the Ethiopian war, the civil war, which has been going for the last 2 years. But most of the time we are coming to Washington D.C. coordinating the communities. We demonstrate on these streets. We just demonstrate to the local governments in the states, but we didn't get that much, urge from the government. So I would like you just to get your experience how you just can really access the White House or the Department of State or other information, including the international media, so that we can expose what is really going on there and get solution. At the end of the day, whether it is in Ukraine or in Ethiopia or somewhere else in 21st century, you cannot resolve any of the problem or the disputes through gunpoint or through so you have to just come to negotiation. And I know as an international relation student, I believe in diplomacy. At the end of the day, the issue between Ukraine and Russia itself will get a final solution through diplomacy. Yeah, it's not military force, even though Russia is a liberal power, so they cannot use that to get to occupy Ukraine, and that kind of a lasting solution. So this is really what is going on. I would like all of you just to have that information that the Cuban Civil War costs more than half a million people, and it's still going on. And so there was a recent development in Victoria, but because of the Eritrean intervention and the other dictators or authoritarian regions intervention, including Russia and China, it's not something that will end soon or easily, and it needs attention, at least media attention. Yeah, it's just wanted to say that.
Yes, thank you, Andres. I will share also some our experience of how we do an advocacy of Ukraine. So I think that I'm originally have one friend, she also from Ethiopia, and she previously worked with Ethiopian Airlines and with industry of transport, and we also discuss a lot how to do also advocacy for Ethiopian issues. Now it must be a little easier because Eritrea, worked with Russia and it's state which famous as like failed state under Russia. So if it's possible, we will have 2 more points about general government relations issue, and the next points will be about Ukrainian advocacy, and I, Sergey, also Alexander, also other colleagues will share their points about how advocate also country interest. And if it's possible, maybe in the end of our discussion, Kendall and Egon, maybe Mark also wanted to add something, how to be more effective in our communication, because they originally from US and they all lifelong work in US. So Dr. Mayala Al-Saud maybe also wanted to add some point to our discussion about government relations practices in Saudi Arabia. So we all know that practices in your region of government relations is completely different. And but mostly people from your government now know also, now finish Western universities, and you work a lot in London and Great Britain, as I know. So for all people, for example, Dina also work in Emirates, and we do experience exchange there. We explain how this plans of government was formed. For example, Mr. Abdullah, which I met in Abu Dhabi government, he explained how they, with other stakeholders, form plan for the next 30 years about water security, and how they involved to this plan, like all stakeholders, and what they do as their vision and vision of Sheikh, of their leader, and how they compare this vision with professional practices, for example, from professionals from the United States. So it's extremely interesting, and please explain a little bit how it works in Saudi Arabia. Is it different for Arabic people? See how it works here, like you must register, and also it's very different because in our countries also it's based on relationships. Like you can't work with person when you haven't any relationships. And here in US you can work like just as association, as union. So it's not important like you like me or you like I like you. It's important like what institution you represent. So please explain us these practices, these institutions, and maybe some of your cases of working for Saudi Arabia here in this. Thank you.
Basically, Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy, so it's kind of really clean cut. There's no upside or downside to it. Being the Saudi representative to Congress here, I feel like when I'm on the Hill itself, I am ineffectively quietly lobbying for our country as to finding effective ways in order to communicate with the United States government, see what the difficulties are that they're facing, and where Saudi Arabia can assist them in these difficulties. Saudi Arabia right now has effectively done an identity change, and we're very much more younger leadership of our government this time. So we are looking at the world through a different type of glass, more so than our generations before us. So there's a lot of changes being made in the effect of Vision 2030. And with our great leadership, King Salman and His Excellency, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, there's a lot of programs and different changes that we are encountering with other countries, a lot of negotiations and a lot of, let's say, that negotiations and assistance, okay, to other countries that are having wars or difficult times when it comes to COVID, hunger, and other apparatuses that are taking place in the world right now. Specifically dealing with Russia and Ukraine, because Saudi Arabia is part of the negotiation team, we cannot effectively or honestly take a side, okay, as per everybody would want us to make a choice as to who's wrong and who's right. In order for us to continue to be considered effective negotiators, we have to remain neutral. And I know this caused an ebb on some people's platform because of the way they view the situation. But I feel positively that in order for us to really help Ukraine and Russia, we need to remain neutral. Okay. So in that effect, we were able to send humanitarian aid to Ukraine in large volume in order to help the effort of the citizens here, more so than being a part of sending arms. And I think that was largely effective. So as we negotiate our way through the world and all the situations that are happening, not only in our country as we step out and branch out in a large form, in conducting lobbyism in Saudi Arabia. I think it is largely on your skill and effectiveness as a person in order to make an effective way to do your job.
Effective cooperation.
Exactly. More so than who you know. But that is also an added bonus because I think that comes with experience and growth and knowledge. So that also weighs heavily on where a lobbyist would position itself largely on the international stage as well as in Saudi Arabia. Now, when you switch hands and you come to the United States, the area or the arena is very different. And we tend to try to assist our colleagues largely in any which way we can, because Saudi Arabia is kind of like an absolute monarchy. So we're like almost set for the next 50 years, you know, and the change is not within the government, but within the people. Okay, so we kind of like put into effect how to expand and change to accommodate a younger generation. And with His Excellency Mohammed bin Salman, he put that into effect by initiating women, myself as the Deputy Prime Minister now, first the second Deputy Prime Minister for 4 years. So as he moved, I moved up. And quietly, but now largely. But you know, it's mind-blowing for a lot of people to see that there's a woman so largely in the political ranks, if you want to say, or in the royal cabinet. Okay, and we also have here a very strong leader as an ambassador. Okay, and we have other female ambassadors that we have been able to place in other places in the world. Okay, so I feel like us as females have to establish ourselves more, because this is something that's not normal for us to be representative in the world as per Saudi Arabia, because at all times it was men or the male factors. So now that it's females, we have to kind of tend to be lobbyists at the same time as diplomats. And I think it kind of like works together. So when we come here to Washington, a lot of people are afraid of Washington. When we come here to Washington, I feel like I learn from everybody, and it makes it easier for us to navigate within, let's say, Congress, with all of the political situations that may be happening there, and where it becomes easy for a younger person of a younger generation like me to get lost. You know, so with being with experienced people, you guys per se, it helps to be able to navigate easier. So as per our country being more established, being more on the world stage, having little bits of issues when it comes to oil, and little agreements, we agree, but we don't agree with us not producing more oil, as for protecting our environment, as for the United States saying that it's a need for them, which in Saudi Arabia only produces 7% of the US oil. So, you know, when people didn't know that, we were the bad guys. But as it explained more by news and other people, I think the citizens are becoming to understand more where the initial problem is. And then instead of Saudi Arabia saying, well, we're not helping, we're not going to do this, and then close the door, we did. We stepped back, we went back in, we analyzed the situation, and presented the government, the United States government, with different programs that may help in this situation. So we're not, we're fully entwined with all our partners, you know, and our hope is to help Russia and Ukraine to come to an understanding in some form. I know there's a lot of work, and it's going to be good. Okay, but I think with all of us together, we can come to a peaceful ceasefire in that specific issue.
Thank you so much. And one more question. When I have little experience of communicating with colleagues in Qatar, it's hard because as a cultural map, and mostly men from our community communicate because quite deep Sharia laws are so more effective for business communication. It was men's but it's still, I see that people who said that they work on government relations in Qatar or in Emirates, where I have experience, I haven't any experience in Saudi Arabia, but I saw your stand on Expo, on the last Expo, it's beautiful. But mostly people who work in government relations, it's people who connect in some way with family.
Yes.
So is it really true, or it's only trend which I saw in these countries?
Before it was a lot tribal, and all of the countries would essentially stand on that formation, and we still do. But now, with how the conference is facilitating the situation, it is more on your skill, your work, your education, what you have to bring to the table. And I think Qatar, Bahrain, Jordan, all of the countries, I believe now facilitate on this apparatus so that we can really go expand the Middle East in a large conglomerate, more so than just focusing on Saudi Arabia alone. We're kind of like trying to lead but teach at the same time and say, okay, this is the new technology. This is, we can switch from oil to different types of gas. We can use different type of solar machinery to facilitate power and different things. And as we bring these things to the front, other countries follow suit. And this will have to really facilitate the Middle East and different conglomeration. Yes, it's important that the Tribal Foundation does work with all countries, and we are royal family member. My father being the late King Abdullah, as well as my uncle as King Salman. That does play heavily on there, but as a female, I think that I've made this mark, not so much on my name, but on my skill and work moving forward. And I think that a lot of the young generation have put that into aspect more so than saying, okay, I'm a household or I'm this from this specific tribe. But I graduated from this college. I have this experience. I have these amount of years in this special field. And I think both of them kind of work together, but I believe now more your education and your work skills and ethics.
More meritocratic.
Yes.
We also must work about more meritocratic in our systems in Soviet Union. It's it's great skills. I know. I also know one political party which named like meritocratic party, but nobody don't understand what it is. So it's happened. So we have two more issues from Vadim Cherdak. Vadim Cherdak work on also lobbying issues, government relations issue, and realizing projects with e-health. And he have interesting experience of working in Ghana with e-health questions, so in Africa region. And he originally started to do the same projects in Ukraine, but war came. Vadim now live in Florida, so they have also enough sun as in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So. Vadim, please share your experience with e-health projects. And I see that now also when we talk about Marshall's Plan in Ukraine and other countries, it's important to see that main message that we need to build better than was. So we not need to build Soviet Union one more time as Putin wants. We need to build something new. And e-health and all e-health technologies, it can be next step of No, I mean development of medical systems. So please share your experience. It also will be interesting for internet audience because some other members of IGAPA, they work also on these issues, but mostly with pharmaceutical companies. And I know that also some members from our own table today, they also work in sphere of medical support. So floor is yours, and the last point will be from Peter, who work here with international trade and peace lobbying, if you want. And then we will discuss more 20 minutes aspects of advocacy for Ukraine and then creative society presentation. So please, Vadim.
Thank you very much. When I start working in e-health and in e-care, I came from a point of view that healthcare is unalienated rights of people and rights of people to get good quality healthcare. And there are a lot of impediment to this. There are problems with developing high-level doctors, nurses. It's inequality of a distribution of professionals in different countries, in different places. And as an IT professional, as a mathematician, I understand that one of the easiest and most effective way to cut through this inequality, it's to build a system that will allow professionals from different places help people where this help needed. And step by step, we build a virtual care platform and possibility to really manage large group of patients. And for example, Dell Technology certified us to more than 1 million patients on the one installation. To manage a large group of patients, to manage a large group of different physicians, different professionals, and give them possibility to access to healthcare data, to data of their patients, and doesn't matter where these patients are. It's rural areas. It's, for example, we deployed system in a rural Appalachian where in some situations it's like 100 miles to drive to the nearest doctor. Or in Louisiana, where is a similar situation. And right now we're working with a number of countries, or in a number of countries. For example, we have very interesting right now cooperation with Nippon Telephone and Telegraph in Australia and New Zealand. They deploying, they choose our system out of a large number of systems they actually look for virtual care. And we're right now working with them. We're partnering with many different countries. Very interesting company, Neurotech in Singapore, that collect vitals of the people just from them looking on a camera in a smartphone. So you don't need any additional external devices, which is a huge benefit. We integrated right now over 200 different devices, starting from regular Bluetooth devices and up to biointellisis, devices in real time collecting multiple vitals from the patients. And our system, benefits of our system is that in the same time that we're collecting multiple information about patients and we moving this information together with the patient through healthcare continuum. And I would say that even right now, 9 out of 10 discharge planning communication in US healthcare system happens by fax machine, which is ridiculous. What we're doing, we transfer information from, let's say, hospital to subacute facility, from subacute facility to home care, from home care we monitor patient at home, because problem with the patients happens not in a hospital, not in a doctor's office. 95+% of problems happens at home, where nobody care for them. So we keeping this monitoring of the patients. We also are working with the Special Olympics, where we help them monitor health of kids with disabilities like autism, different developmental disabilities. We're working with behavioral health platforms, and we also helping doctors in US through Medicare programs to improve monetization and get additional money for using these preventive care programs, improve their activities, improve their work in the clinics, and at the same time receive additional revenue. I bring today one of our devices that we recently integrated with our platform. And one more point that I would like to stress: general rationale between patients and healthcare professional, it's around 1 to 15. With our system, we can use one nurse to monitor over 300 patients. And by generating smart alerts, when patient actually need attention, need escalation of a problem, we can drastically improve quality of healthcare by making work of medical personnel more smart, more efficient, and better. Instead of more typing in a system, they can actually work with the patients and pay attention to the patients. This system that I wanted to show today, it's called MedVon. We recently integrated this. This system actually got FDA approval 1 month ago. It's collected multiple vitals. It has a thermometer embedded, stethoscope, so a doctor can monitor lungs and stomach and heart. It has a ACG. It has oxygen saturation, camera that can you can control heart, throat, ears, nose, different lesion on the skin. So all this can be done by, let's say, doctor with device with the patient, or doctor can be 1,000 miles away through a web portal. A doctor can collect this information, have video call with the patient, analyze situation, and actually even prescribe medicine. So everything can be done remotely, and our platform allowed use these devices for many patients at the same time, like a nurse going through ward and doing assessment of one patient after the patient. She not using separate device for every patient. She used one device from patient to patient. So we allowed the system to be used for multiple patients, and it's make it very cost efficient. Because as we all understand, cost is the one big problem for healthcare. And I would say that right now, especially with COVID, propagation of e-care, propagation of virtual care became very drastic. Statistics from McKinsey shows that in January 2020, only 8% of the doctors considered virtual visits or televisits to be acceptable. In May of 2020, it's over 70%. So it was a completely, but I would add to this that generally the most important part was that in March, Medicare approved that payment for telehealth visits was equal to office visits. So telehealth became the only possibility for large group of doctors to make their revenue. Right now, telehealth, usage of telehealth became a little bit less because COVID, thanks God, get a little bit under or became accustomed. But propagation of virtual care in the different areas of medicine, in the digital trials, in child care, in the behavioral health, in care for people in the rural areas, in special cases, let's say, of a military veterans, because these kind of devices can be carried by military in the field and can help immediately diagnose and prevent problems. As we know, if, for example, person wounded, in an hour and a half, person didn't receive treatment, level of this person became much worse. So generally, medical care extremely important in the military situations. It can be also used by firefighters, by policemen, etc., for like immediate response tool and connection to local doctors or to medical call centers. If anybody will be interested, I am here. So any particular information on devices, etc.
Thank you so much, Vadim. It's really interesting, and I think that it's trends of next generation, next 30 years. So in transitional discussion now, I will ask to speech Sergei Smely. Sergei worked originally in Kryvyi Rih, and I know very good this region because all refugees from Kherson, from my native region, go through Kryvyi Rih, and now it's 75,000 of refugees who go from Kherson to Kryvyi Rih. And Sergei also work on and have big practices of services for huge plants and of plants who produce steel. And now he also transit his business to Europe. And I think that in this perspective, very interesting to hear his position, how to do government relations and B2B management and work. Yeah, and then your message will be.
I just wanted to interrupt and say two things have happened since
Yeah.
we've been here. One is Representative McCarthy has been elected as a leader for the Republicans, and which will mean if they take the House, he will be the new Speaker. Secondly, Russian missiles that landed in Poland. Killed at least 2 people. Poland is calling for an emergency meeting of NATO.
Exactly. Right now.
Yeah, and today was Israel also in Kiev, like Central. Yes. Let's hope that we will defeat that. And yeah, on the question of advocacy of Ukraine, I will explain also our position about the part. So Sergei, can you represent also your practice, how you as a person who work with huge business from a business who generates the biggest ВВП with the GDP work now in Europe, and maybe also some your tools which can be used for other people who wanted to move their business and who work with industrial issues. And if needed, I will help you in this translation. Yeah.
Спасибо, Екатерина.
I will help.
Всех приветствую. Я из Украины и желаю всем мира и вашим семьям.
Yeah, so Sergei means that he's from Ukraine, as I mentioned, and he believes in peace and wish peace to all people.
В городе Кривой Рог я имею 2 локальных бизнеса, и третий бизнес – это международный, который последние 4 года я строю.
So he has several business and also international business. Mostly it's located in Kryvyi Rih, which it's Dnipro region.
Последние события, связанные с войной в Российской Федерации, сделали особое усложнение в логистике, И тот холдинг, который международный, оказался в ситуации более сложной в Украине.
But you must understand that, like on his perspective, his business, and it's true for all business, it's huge problems with logistics now. And it's not only problems for Ukrainian business, it's also problems for his international business and for like all the international business which have supply chains with Ukraine. Obviously.
Да. Холдинг Promotion Industries сопровождал сделки между ArcelorMittal, Metinvest Holding в городе Мариуполе с производителями из Китая, из Европы, из Турции. По сути, наш холдинг обеспечивал контракты производителям и тем, кому нужна продукция, это машиностроение, это горнодобывающие и металлургические комбинаты.
So to understand more, that like his company do before war and now do contracts between Chinese producers of some techniques and some like raw material and other producers and biggest steel production industries in Ukraine, like Metinvest and ArcelorMittal, which is like it's the biggest company in Ukraine and one of the biggest companies in the world which produce steel and other related materials.
Практически мы создали ключ в бизнесе для управления проектами, связанными международных компаний в Украину.
So he worked with international companies who work with Ukraine with these huge industrial plants and like all contracts, not all, but many contracts was through his firm. So it's his experience and why he talking about supply chains especially.
Да. Последние уже хорошие новости есть, что мы освобождаем территорию, наши достойные военные, ВСУ делают свою профессиональную работу. И сейчас возобновляется рынок, и есть что восстанавливать, и есть надежда, что логистика наладится и пойдут международные проекты.
But we must all say glory to our military, to our Ukrainian army, because as Stephen Blank said, that now they fight not only for Ukraine but for the whole world, and now situation in region it's even better. So now we liberate more territories, and it's like more stable if we can like said about stable situation now.
И в последнее время я расширил действия холдинга, открыл компании в Болгарии, в Польше, сделал совместную компанию в Чехии, и агенты в Будапеште, Венгрия и в Германии, для того, чтобы все те наработки транслировать уже в Евросоюз.
But his solution for this situation, it can be useful for our business in the same sector. It's solution to open the same companies. You mentioned Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria,
Czechia.
sorry.
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Poland, and also other European Union countries. So it's hard to work with like new law and new government, but it's still possibility. And he see like now business advice and also like advice for government relations professional from Ukraine to open the. So as you can see, some countries which like the richest countries of European Union, like Germany and Austria and some like Czech Republic, it's more similar to Ukrainian decision-making process.
Также бизнес у меня является социально ответственным. Мы в это время очень помогаем людям временно перемещенным и ЗСУ. Есть награды, есть социальная ответственность.
Yeah, and also his business and other business in region, and I know it directly because I also help them to find here money and resources. It's social responsible business. So Sergei's business also give many food goods to people as humanitarian aid, and other businesses do the same. And also our friend Rabbi Liron do great work in the region. It's head of Jewish association in Ukraine. So they also do great work in Kривий Ріг.
Да. У меня более 1000 сотрудников, и это еще одна ответственность в такое тяжелое время обеспечить их работу.
So in this sector, in this firm, which do trading between these plants, it's more than 1,000 employees. So it's also quite hard to like pay these employees in Ukraine and to employees who relocate. Некоторые переехали, да?
Нет,
So 1,000 в Украине.
да.
So the 1,000 is also only in Ukraine, and like in Europe, it's in Ukraine. So it's reality which you can see like Ukrainian business and Ukrainian associations. Я могу спросить, что ассоциация металлургов сейчас делает?
Ассоциация металлургов.
Да.
Ну, практически поставить они не могут. Но на самом деле все остановилось, и люди, которые работают на металлургическом производстве, работают примерно 1/3, кто-то 2/3 в времени в месяц, для того, чтобы продержать основных работников. Сейчас важно сохранить специалистов.
It's also very important issue that we have associations also, and Sergei said that only 25% like people now work, but other business trying to pay salary to other people and most qualified professionals, because in other ways these professionals will go from country and I think they cannot come back. Они могут не вернуться, да, если уедут.
Они не уедут, у нас выезд запрещен только по какой-то миссии. Мужчина не может выехать со страны.
Yes. So they all in country only because only men who have pre-child or who volunteer can go temporary from country. So but women who professionals, но женщины могут выехать и не вернуться.
Женщины могут и выезжают. Многие.
But it's one of the problems that if you have woman and she's professional, she can go to Europe, and if she will found work in Vienna, for example, she maybe not go to Ukraine. So it's also a problem for huge industries which need professionals.
Я к чему это все рассказывал. Нам предстоит еще восстанавливать Украину и сделать ее такой же цветущей, а то и лучше, как она была. Соответственно, мой кейс, он реально практичный и рабочий. Присутствующие могут в дальнейшем рассчитывать на то, что я в Украине могу лоббировать все вопросы. Не с правительством, а бизнес-то-бизнес. Правительство, оно и есть, оно меняется, то есть, а бизнес есть бизнес. И то ли вы, то ли ваши знакомые, пожалуйста, могу оставить контакт.
So Sergei represents this case because like it's work model for Ukrainian business now, and all metal industry now also industry which produce raw materials, steel, pipes, and so on and so forth. They waiting for Marshall's plan for renewal, because it's also very discussable issues here in DC, and it's also interesting that like these guys from industry of steel production really interested in lawsuits against Russia, because it's huge. It's more than, I think, 20 billion now only in one sector of loss, only in steel production industry. And so he also work a lot with associations with this industry, so he also will be happy to cooperate with you in business and in social projects also. Thank you, Sergei. Thank you for your work. And we're moving forward to Ukrainian panel. And I wanted to start Ukrainian panel, not Ukrainian, but Liv Larson. He know about Ukraine a lot, and we know each other quite a long time. Mr. Larson, can you explain us like what perspective from American point of view of advocacy for Ukraine, because now we have bills. So first two bills, it's bills which connected with Russia state sponsor of terrorism. One bill in the House and one bill is in Senate. But when we had meeting with Office of Nancy Pelosi, they said that it's not possible to vote for these bills, but maybe for the next bills it will be possible. Second bill is connected with additional weapons for Ukraine. So I think that it's still possible to have additional weapons. Other bill connect with understanding war as genocide of Ukraine. It's also important, like, to understand this situation as genocide of Ukraine. And additional bill about direct money to our budget. No, I mean like financial aid. What do you think about perspectives of these bills? If somebody interested, I post a lot on Facebook. You can find numbers of these bills which we're working on, and tomorrow we will work on it together with partners on Ukrainian advocacy days. But what do you think about maybe these direct bills, about dual party support, and what we need to work more on after this election? So this.
First, I'd like to say that we've heard some really good comments from everybody around this table. But I just want to throw out a couple things here real quick. A wrestling coach, person who trained reindeer, a CrossFit gym owner. These are the people who have been elected to the United States House of Representatives. They will make the decisions, and they will make the decisions not from a position of where everybody here is from, but they're going to make the decision on based how they can keep their job in 2024. And I, for one, being in my position is to sell a story to American people on how and why they should elect certain people. And I can tell you right off the bat, in 3 or 4 months, this country will be in a recession. Layoffs, jobs will start to happen. And we will be in our winter. And a person in Massachusetts who has lost his job in a manufacturing plant or something will begin to wonder why I can't get a check from my government to help pay for my heating oil when we're sending money to people in Ukraine. I think to kind of I'll be a contrarian to some of the more positive feelings that have been here. I think the money, the weapons for Ukraine will continue to come. We will continue to pay, produce and give Ukraine the weapons they need to fight this war and to win it. Primarily because in giving those weapons to Ukraine, which are made here in the United States, we keep Americans in jobs and money flows to corporations. The money for paying the bills for the Ukrainian government, I think, will be greatly reduced. That is going to be one of the first things that you will see probably is those bills that Nancy Pelosi spoke about. Our good friend over there, Mr. Kafi Esquire, positioned the position of making the Russian state a terror state. That's going to be a hard lift. That comes with a lot of negative aspects, and I think it's the final blow. If we think we can see, and this comes from intelligence gathering by our government, if we can see that in doing so, we could topple the Putin regime where people would go to overthrow him because of this designation, which would basically kill, I think, a lot of the international trade that they have, that might be the reason it's passed. I would also like to throw out something that was mentioned earlier. Does anybody know the name Dr. Seuss? Who is Dr. Seuss?
Green eggs and ham. It's a joke. Something left over from World War II.
That was what I was going to get to, but most people know him for Green Eggs and Ham, The Cat in the Hat. He wrote children's books. But what he did in the 1940s during World War II is produce American propaganda films in Hollywood. We must move away from the idea that propaganda is a bad word. It isn't. It is done in wartime all the time. And it is done to make sure that the general public is getting an image of what's happening. The atrocities that are happening to the Ukrainian people, those need to be put in front of the American people. And so I think in looking at the position of getting that information out, and I've mentioned this before, the use of social media in this country, I think cannot be looked aside from. One of the great twists I think that we can do on this to get those reindeer trainers and wrestling coaches and those other folks in the house back to your side is to also tie it in with the Iranians have now said that they have a hypersonic missile. How did they get a hypersonic missile? From the Russians in exchange for their help in giving munitions. This is a country that Americans do not like. They haven't liked it since the 80s. And to allow them to understand that Iran is getting weapons of mass destruction from the Russians because of this ongoing war, I think drives more Americans to oppose the Russians than the actual invasion of Ukraine, where a small percentage of people still think it could have been brought on because of Western influence and things like that. But when you start tying in Russians working with Iran, working with the butchers in Chechnya and the Wagner group of military, paramilitary folks, that is a story that sells. And I think that is where a lot of this needs to be put into is, and I tell people come from Ukraine and other countries all the time, we want to influence American government. Can I get a story in the Washington Post and make that happen? And my first thing is, it's a long road to getting to there. And I think one of the first places is getting a good story out there that really resonates well with the American population, which then makes it easier for these people in the House of Representatives who want to have their jobs in 2 years, get reelected. And I think that's the first big step. Another step, I think, besides, and I've pitched this before too, besides going to Hollywood, getting a movie, getting that type of output, getting something on Netflix or something along those lines, is Ukraine has had one of the top under 18, we call it soccer, but football teams, women especially. Kazakhstan has the same thing. Get those teams over here. Sports is the other aspect of the Hollywood idea that Americans love to get behind, and especially women's sports. Women love to see, which make up over more than 50% of the population, they want to see women represented in sports who are doing well. Have them come here through, donations from somebody in the country, play women's soccer teams, play college teams, have them get out there. And when Americans see that type of sports and sportsmanship tied with your country's name, they begin to think about it. And it's a positive building aspect. It takes time, but none of this is going to happen, as fast as some people would want it or always want to have it happen. We have to build a positive aspect. You build on these third-party groups. Get the Atlantic Council, get them to do some positive papers on you. Then you get the Wall Street Journal to do a good article on improvements in banking systems and the end of the oligarchy in these countries around the world. Then you can go to the members of Congress who then have this insulation of, well, the Wall Street Journal said everything was going nice, and so did the Atlantic Council. Sure, come on in for a meeting. Sadly, it took a war in Ukraine to get members of our government to sit down with other members of the Ukrainian government. But I can tell you with all great confidence, if the Russians had not carried out the war that they have, American members of Congress would not meet with Ukrainians. It was just taboo. So my thinking is we will see, and I hate to be the negative person in the room, we will see a cut. That's what Speaker McCarthy will throw to his part of the party who want to see cuts. They will cut funding that goes to paying for the bills. They will keep going with the spending on military weaponry, because as much as the Ukrainians, and I see a couple sitting in the back, want to see dead Russians, Americans don't mind seeing dead Russians either. And we like to feel as if, I mean, and you take nothing away, the Ukrainians are bearing the brunt of this and are the ones who are dying on the front lines, defending their country. But Americans like to feel good that they're helping somehow. And I think in giving weapon systems and things like that, it gives the American a feel of we are helping foster freedom and liberty around the world. But I do believe we will be in a recession in this country in a couple months. Government officials will then look to cover themselves because people like me will start selling advertising that says, you know, how come, you know, Jim is living in cold and he's lost his job and everything else. The American government must help them, and foreign payments are the first things that come to everybody's mind. So I would expect from the current situation, and I also would like to add, that will come from what I call the crazy wing of the Republican Party, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I mentioned earlier, the failed gym owner, from her group of people, and it will also come from the far left progressives, who will start beating the drum louder and louder. There was mention of a letter that they had written and were going to give to President Biden, who was a leader of their own party, but they were told, drop it before the midterm elections. That's going to come back because they will also be fighting, well, we got to cover our own people. I've got people in my constituency that don't have jobs and they need help. And so that will be one of the first things that will be kind of scaled down. It'll be a bone that the leadership will throw to its members. Okay, instead of 40 billion, we'll only send 15, but we'll send them several, tens of billions of dollars worth of weapons. So I see that as part of where we're going to be in the next 2 years. The best thing that can happen, I think, for the Ukraine on an American government side is that President Joe Biden declares that he's not going to run for president in 2024. He also, in doing so, declares, I'm not going to go through Congress for any of the things that I can do through executive order, which was mentioned earlier. And he rules, it's not a real good word for Americans to say, he will carry out the government's business through executive order. And in doing so, can sidestep Congress and in do so throw more favors on foreign policy to certain people.
Did you learn that from Mr. His earlier boss?
Yes, well, I mean, executive orders, everybody likes to, scream and cry, but since Bush 43, the executive orders have been climbing and climbing and climbing. It's a poor way to run a government, and it's mostly because of the great divide between Americans right now. Nothing can seem to get done. This election may end that. I think we'll see less crazy candidates and more people of.
No more Ross Perot.
Well, Ross wasn't a big. I mean, I think you're not going to see Carrie Lake come back again anytime soon. Masterone from Pennsylvania. But we also, the beginning of this, when we saw the lack of turning away from far ideological candidates, was when the district attorney from San Francisco was Republican. A very progressive man who had gotten rid of bail for certain crimes. They weren't going to arrest people for certain crimes, which led to people running into grocery stores and convenience stores and just taking stuff off the shelves and running away. He was recalled. Why? And San Francisco is no bastion for Republicans, I can tell you that. It was because he had gone too far. And now I think we see that the former President Trump has gone too far with some of these people, even though he likes to blame Melania for picking Dr. Oz. I don't think it really flies, but I do see some economic downturn for the United States. We're starting to see it in the United Kingdom. And I think from there, you will see a downturn on some of the financial aid that goes to Ukraine, not military weapons, but the financial aid. I just think that that's probably where we're looking at for the next 2 years.
I've got a
Thank you
question,
so much.
because, and I certainly think the designation of Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism under the existing law, that's for the Secretary of State in the White House. But there's this legislation floating to give the president the authority, the directive to confiscate Russian bank funds. And we read estimates that there's 40 billion. How do you think the new Congress might look at that?
That is always a possibility, but again, we've got the reindeers and trainers and the guys that were wrestling coaches and everything else. And as you know, you raise a nickel, Congress will spend 6 cents. And they may look at that money and say, oh, wow, $40 billion. We could do so many great things in the way of helping the beekeepers and all this other type of stuff. I don't know how much of that would flow towards Ukrainian assistance when we have so many people looking to keep their jobs. And the way you keep your job is you help out the people back at home, because what Americans saying here is all politics is local. And if Joe, the gas station attendant, sees I'm helping out with getting him a small business loan through government assistance, I can get his vote and the Rotary Club will love me. So I think that might be one thing. And if President Biden decides not to run, that is a possibility he may pick up, because why not? If it doesn't hurt the party in the long run, he may do that. But I think labeling them a sponsor of terror may be a tool used to push them towards negotiating peace.
Would anybody mind if I just pop 2 little incidents?
Yes, let's discuss it.
We,
Head of my colleagues.
3 colleagues and myself, very interesting backgrounds. They all have Hollywood backgrounds. The tool of war that we've identified is not being used is America's Got Talent. That is a powerful tool. It resonates with that level, and that level. It ingratiates.
We also have this.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, that is, we have a small consortium that I mentioned earlier on getting involved in the entertainment side for Ukraine. And this is a top pushing. Years ago, I worked for a law firm, I did international tax, but we were something like law school. And this is an avenue we're pursuing, because it is, I think it's quintessential. And that's just, I want to let that sort of look on that. The other issue with regard to assets. Now, I don't know, the Federal Reserve, if you're not aware, has the deepest point in the Isle of That Hat. Are you aware of that? That's where the gold is kept. Now, I don't know how much gold the Russians have, if any. I really don't know, but that's where everybody's gold is kept there. And that's not been discussed about an asset that is available to see that has value. And so I'm just kind of throwing out that as well.
Yeah, Michael.
Thank you for a very good conversation and a lot of facts which we didn't know about. One thing of all of this, it's not just the United States, but there is also European Union, who is also the victim out of the, going on in Ukraine itself, per se. Yeah, but on the other hand, we're NATO, and it means, we cannot just see that the consequence of this, I'll say, midterm change, and with the Republicans coming on, right, and cutting the bills. That would be a bad signal to international community and as well to the NATO, because all of our countries actually put the budgets on it, and we are suffering as well. And we have this recession coming. With Germany is in crisis now. All the other states will follow in this as well. You are announcing that, so we are all together in this. So it means that to see that, I think that it will be very tough for Republicans and to all the world that they will understand United States in this.
Well,
And I think it's both ways.
Right.
You will be losing that. How to say? I see the international, how to say, recognition, and as a superpower in this, you will start to lose it. Now you have it. You have
Right.
all international, how to say, respect everything, and we all support it. And there are also United Nations there, and there'll be a General Assembly, and there'll be Security Council, and also our country as a Slovenia is, trying to be a member. It's very important for us because it's this. We choose West because what the United States is doing,
Right.
and now the Western Balkans. We wish to have the Western Balkans also in this side, and now with this change of Trump, and even his wife is Melania, who's from the same country as myself, okay? But I oppose that, right? It will be a wrong signal. So all the, how to say, new congressmen, they're not all they have to know it. We cannot just do it just this. Ukraine needs support because not just Ukraine, it's Europe and it's all the globe.
And I think that comes from presenting a story that Americans can grab onto. I tell a lot of my clients, you have to present to the voters, first of all, why they shouldn't elect somebody, and then you present yourself as the alternative. Why shouldn't you go this way? And here I am, the alternative. Does everybody know there's a brand of aspirin in this country called Excedrin? And everybody said their advertising thing was, it's not just a headache, it's an Excedrin headache that you need Excedrin for. And I think in presenting a story that way to Americans, it's not just people dying in a foreign country, it's women and children being massacred and men losing their lives protecting them against our foreign enemies. And we need to help them. It's not a Ukrainian problem. This is an American problem. And we need to get that. And like I said, we all believe that the word propaganda is a bad thing, but in wartime, it isn't. And I think getting as many people on board to present, I know there's a couple groups out there that have independent made films that they're trying to push forward. But I think at the end of the day, you really do need the people like Barbara Streisand, well, not a fan, but she's got a good reputation and she's got a big pocket. And I think another group of people who are on the side of what you're talking about are the Koch brothers, or Koch Industries. And I think they would be a good person to turn to if we ever have looking for support in getting financing.
Can I jump in? Okay.
Yeah.
David Koch and company are nice people. They are MIT through the nose. I'm MIT hard. And I deal with them on cancer research.
Mhm.
They have the money, no argument. They want making the face. When you're on stage, an entertainer says, my face. They don't say, here's who I am, it's my face. That's what they're delivering to the public. And you've got to create that story before you start the story. You don't walk into Hollywood and say, my story is interesting. You create the story. And that is so important to talk with governmental affairs people. You've got to step out of that role. And at that point, you got to say, I am an animator. I am creating a story from scratch, essentially. And let me jump a little bit on that. When professionals, I don't care if they're medical professionals, lawyers, well-educated professionals often come to me and say, how can I get this article in the Wall Street Journal mention of the preeminent publications? And the first answer is you can't, because you don't even have a press kit. And they don't have a few pieces of paper saying, here's who I am, here's what I've done, check me out. And then you say, well, how do I start that? And my first thought is hit the op-eds. Get your name in the op-eds. Every time that subject comes up, The Economist, anywhere around the English-speaking globe, respond to it, but have that press kit to submit with your op-ed. And once you get a few op-eds, then they'll start looking at you, and they'll give consideration who you are. We didn't discuss, you kind of mentioned social media. I'm almost 74. In January 1, 2, or 3, I start a podcast. I got off my tail and took the training how to do podcasting. Why? If you don't, you're not contemporary. It's as simple as that. And it's the media that nobody wants to talk about when you're below 40, below 35. Yet it's the only game in town. And it is so well versed for what we are talking about today that I was kind of surprised thinking nobody brought this up. I thought, why not? Yet that is what is not critical, it is absolutely necessary. And if you don't deliver the product that way, your credibility goes down. Why aren't you on podcasts? The first question to be asked.
You work for Joe Rogan.
Right?
You worked for Joe
I
Rogan.
work for many, many people. And so I beat people up daily. I just do daily. And I'm talking educate people. I'm fortunate I hang around with a bunch of PhD types and a bunch of practitioner types. And when I came out of early retirement, I had to reinvent myself. And so I had to learn the kids' game. I had no choice. Nobody said, hey, you can live on the laurels of the 70s and 80s in college. So I had to go get published. I worked with certain laboratories. So I'm on their blueprint. I'm one of the authors of that. I did that at, I guess I'm 74, I did that at age 70. I had to compete with the kids at Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge, the whole thing. I had to beat them. I had to do some other things. I want to step back a bit for all of you people. Some of you will remember the Clio Awards, not the contemporary Clios, but the original Clios. You know what I'm talking about here? Yeah. International advertising, all medias of advertising, print, television, radio, etc. In the late 80s, they got booted off the air because of narcotics. But putting that aside, Bill Owens, I can't remember, Bill whatever, something. He's the guy that just got hooked on coke and just messed up. But I was one of the investors in the original Clio Awards. And they would take Apple Computer and put them on the map. We took Kawasaki motorcycles. That was one of my projects, Kawasaki motorcycles. They were going after the Americana Harley Davidson. And they had the tax laws, we kept them out of the US, we stipulated that their CCs, the size of the motors, had to be relegated to this size, couldn't compete with the big Harley Davidsons. So we had to create Kawasaki, make the good times roll. I think that was their slogan. And we did the Mill 47. That got press, whoa, all over the world. And we did it with a bunch of druggies. That's when I look at people, I can't do that. No, we did it with a bunch of druggies. And we made it happen. So when people get that mentality, that's not my turf, I can't do that. I go, lap around a bit, but you can do it. And if the tool is there, it's available. But you have to knock on the door and say, show me, how do we do it? I can actually, because I go through this every day, so I can actually give the roadmap in 3 seconds if I ironed it out with so many people. Can I add one more anecdote here? Please.
Yeah, because we have more speakers from Ukraine. So.
Okay, one more real quick. So a few years back, I was on stage with the CIA, and they were introducing very famous players. They were the history. And I'm thinking, how are they going to introduce me? I was introduced as the most sought after dinner guest. I'm all thinking, now the reason, so one of these famous CIA types wished me, because I bet you can't tell me where you were the night of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I couldn't tell you the date right now, whatever it was. Yes, I can. Where were you? I was busted at the White House. We were arrested. Do you remember Rocky and Bullwinkle, cartoon series?
Nobody wants to do that.
Boris and Natasha. We must get loose and square.
Well, yeah, Boris Patton. So the father, Jay Ward, was the founder producer of all that. I schooled out in Hollywood. So he was my best friend that time when he was poor, trying to build that company up. So he would go out to shopping centers with the Volkswagen bus with the lettering on the side, hand painted, statehood from Pennsylvania. And we went across countries to Minneapolis, all over the silly place. And on weekends, we'd show up with statehood from Pennsylvania. And we'd get this petition signed and would make local news. We couldn't afford to hire PR. And we were presenting it, demanding it at the White House, coincidentally, and I the domestic crisis. So we got busted. But notwithstanding, we made national news and the company flew like that. He couldn't afford media. So he made media. Get used to it. We own it, but we're not used to it.
Yeah, and Ukraine very good in this media work, I think now, and
The interesting thing will
Yeah.
be to see on November 20th, how the social media plays in the Kazakh presidential.
yeah, it's additional. Now I'm propose that we have presentation from Julia Gershon, which she come from Ukraine and she work on child's issues, issues of charity which help child. So a little bit no information from her and from Alexander Rubtsov and Dmitry, and they represent their teams and they represent our soldiers. And also, if it's possible, maybe explain some information how it really looks like, because really for many people, war it's movie, but for us, we lost many friends there, and I'm not a soldier, but I lost many friends, and our soldiers can also explain the situation. After that, we will talk about positive things, about social, about creative society. Then Tomer also worked with filmmaking. So
Yeah, it's a good advertising for my industry. I love it. Thank you very much.
He originally had the long list Oscar for his
Winter and
film.
Fire, yes.
Yeah, about Revolution of Dignity. So and
Netflix.
now then also help with charity
If you try and
project.
leave
So,
without chatting.
so firstly we will go. Then maybe you firstly add some.
Yeah, I mean, it's very nice. I mean, I'm a little bit far away from the industry. You represent guys. I'm a movie producer. But actually, nothing happened as we understand without Hollywood right now. And the most known of my movies is The Winter and Fire on Netflix. It's about Revolution 2015-2014. And actually, the interesting part of it, because it becomes so popular because of the war, so Netflix, first time in the history, just put their movie for free on YouTube because it was more than $100 million. So, sometimes it really goes together. So anyhow, I'm here to represent a nonprofit I'm helping with, and Alexander is actually the head of it. So our main goal right now, we did a couple of projects. We brought refugees from Ukraine to Poland. We concentrate on the purpose to help injured soldiers from Ukraine, to bring them here to get all the help they need, and how we're going to advance that. This is the purpose we're here. So I'm going to shut myself up. Everything you're going to ask, afterwards, I'll be able to talk to you guys. And then please, to the guys who really.
Julia, Gershon firstly about issues about child, because about kidnapping even from occupied territory. Yeah.
Thank you for a very interesting job and support Ukraine. It's very big for us, and we unexpected. It was so great job, really biggest thank you for it. Main question, very often journalists ask me what women must do during war. And we start to answer for this question 8 years ago when we start really 8 years ago in Donbass, but nobody expected that it can be so big and so serious, and we lost so many people and have so big humanitarian crisis and other things, bad things. And now I understand when somebody asked me what use women, what is superpower for I'm Ukrainian. Of course, it's a job, but today and every day we must be brave. We must be. We have our responsibility for our country, for our people, and for all world now. And we have it as a variant. We must save our land, our home. For example, my parents in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, Russian soldiers go to my home, and I'm very happy that my mother not be at home at this moment. And during this 7 months, we evacuate more than 10,000 children and women to European country, also to UK and to Israel. Before I was TV presenter, Miss Ukraine and Mrs. Universe 2018, and also ambassador UNICEF. And my international organization, Peace Committee. We started, I told that 8 years ago, but in 2022, we understood that we have really big risk genocide Ukrainian people. And first point for us, save people. Of course, we evacuate people during these 7 months and find home for these people in other countries. But during the job, I understand that mental health people, it will be next problem, because we didn't understand how it's serious. And when I see that, for example, have situation when we have in bus 100 children, and one mother have a message from Mariupol. Her husband was in Azov, and this is he wrote her message that I'm sorry, dear, maybe I cannot come back because all our team, military team, died. And this mother has 4 children, and now she in Sweden, and every day she go to square near Russian embassy in Sweden with picture, please come back, my husband. And it's more than 1 million story, and I understood that Ukrainian people very brave and strong, but energy can finish, and we must help the people who broke life, who lose parents, lose children, or somebody close for him. And I made initiative for international sociality, and organized biggest conference about psychological trauma of war in Warsaw, 12 September. And thank you, Poland government support us a lot, and we have 25 delegations from different countries, Europe, Israel, and UK and USA too. And of course, we create new methodology, because everybody understood that before involved have not this topic of problem like international. We had not before this conference. And Israel helped a lot, because Israel has this experience, and we take Israel technology for mental health people during war, and already start to educate Ukrainian doctors, psychologists, and we invite for it all president and head of psychiatry association different country. And main goal for us now build abroad Poland in Ukraine rehabilitation center for people. For first, it's mental health, it's psychological trauma for its children, its mothers, and also it's physical rehabilitation for military guys. And we understood that it cannot be separated because when you have physical trauma, of course, you have psychological trauma too, and it must be complex. And now we create this project, and I come to Washington and open office our organization in USA too, because we have already in Israel and Europe. And I hope that we can raise money and we can try to have grant from this project, because before we cannot imagine that how is big this problem. For example, I'm 7 months evacuate children and mothers who can and very often husband and father die from this family, and it's unbelievable stress, not only for this family. I'm saying that I'm strong, what I help a lot of people, but after 6 months I cannot wake up. 2 weeks I cannot wake up, but before I'm saying I'm strong, and I have shock. I prepare and organize a conference, psychological trauma for, and after this, I 2 weeks cannot wake up. It means I need psychological. Yes, and we understood that how is deep, and I hope that here, I'm first time in Washington, and I hope that people here. We find good partner and people who are interested in this topic, please, I can give my contact or Katerina, and I will be happy your support, and biggest thank you that what you do.
Thank you so much, and you remember that next 3 days we also work with congressmen and with people from House and from Senate about Ukrainian advocacy. So, Alexander, can you please represent your initiative and represent Dmitry and represent story of our soldiers? So, please, floor is yours.
Let me continue in Russian because it's easier way
I can help you with that.
Yeah. Я Александр Усов, я руководитель КНДИЦ, нон-профит организации, которую мы зарегистрировали на второй день войны. Мы как зарегистрировали, поступили билеты и вылетели в Краков, где организовали штаб, и на эвакуированных в Украине автобусах вывезли и разместили из Украины в Евросоюз порядка 3000 человек.
Their non-profits and initiatives start from the current day of war, and they originally come to Poland and evacuate to European Union more than 3,000 people. So I mean, their organization evacuated more than 3,000 people.
После месяца эвакуации этот поток закончился. Мы вернулись в США и сосредоточились на другом новом нашем проекте. Это протезирование для украинских граждан, которые пострадали от войны с Россией.
So now they focus on prosthetics for Ukrainians who need this medical support. Для военных или
для всех, для гражданских, для военных, независимо.
Not only for army, but also for civilians who have the same problems and who need prosthetics.
Сегодня в Нью-Йорке мы сотрудничаем с 4 докторами. На сегодняшний день мы привезли первых 2 ребят, они здесь, поставили им протезы. Это военные украинской армии, которые совсем недавно получили ранения. Они прибыли 3 недели назад, и сегодня они уже ходят на ногах на протезах.
So today we can send thank you to our army, and now we start on several medical procedures here, but we plan to do more, to help more people with medical assistance and prosthetics.
Сегодня к нам уже обращаются, нас уже немного начинают узнавать, и к нам уже обращаются американские госпитали, американцы предлагают свою помощь, и мы имеем надежду, что у нас расширится этот поток людей, которым нужны протезы.
And it's very good that American hospitals already come to us, and maybe you also know some American hospitals who come and who already want to help and take part in our initiative to do more medical assistance and more prosthetics.
Все наши действия с самого начала, с первого проекта, сегодняшний проект, это больше наша частная инициатива и наши частные средства, которые очень быстро заканчиваются, потому что протезы это очень дорого.
So mostly it's our money, like as business money, and now we use our resources or resources from other businessmen.
Сегодня мы сделали конструкцию, которая работает, мы можем ее расширять, и мы здесь с вами встречаемся как с командой профессионалов в лоббизме, для того, чтобы вы нам помогли, подсказали, какие существуют программы, какие существуют, возможно, государственные или частные фонды, к которым мы можем обратиться для того, чтобы разгрузить громадную очередь, которая существует сегодня в Украине.
So now we like our aim of taking part in this event and the next event, which is Ukrainian Advocacy Days, is to find partners or to find other foundations to help more people to get prosthetics. So maybe you know some foundations who give money or who give medical assistance. This will be very useful to contact us with that structures or to give professional advice what organizations can help with that. Maybe you know about.
То есть наши два пути мы расширяем максимально здесь поток украинцев, которых мы принимаем в Нью-Йорке, и в наших планах построить центры протезирования и реабилитации под границей на территории Польши, там, где не летают ракеты, где есть свет, для того, чтобы принимать пациентов на границе с Польшей. 40 километров от Львова.
Now their aim is build hospital in Poland, because in Poland it's all we have also flights, no, even like light and heated and water, which it's now luxury issues for Ukraine. Yes, so we have all this in Ukraine. That's why we're searching for additional opportunities or money or American support for this project, and Americans can be sure that this hospital center for helping our civilians and people from army can exist in Poland, and they think that it's better build now this hospital in Poland, near border, so like 40 kilometers from border.
Так коротко о нас. Начали мы этот фонд с Дэном Томером. Сегодня к нам присоединился Дмитрий Шевченко. Это наш доктор-реабилитолог. Конкретно он поставил их на ноги.
Yeah, so now we work with, so we start this foundation with Dan Tolma, who is film producer, and they started it in Florida originally, and Dmitry Shevchenko, he professional, he MD, so he medical doctor, and he helped directly to do this treatment. Можете рассказать немножко историю ребят, как бы вот я знаю, что они воевали на Донецком направлении, ну, может, немножко подробнее.
Okay.
Yeah.
Сегодня у нас у нашего проекта сегодня первые ребята, которых мы протезируем в США, это Виктор Нестеренко, ему это морская пехота, 23 года, и Антон Домарадский, 35 лет. Это отдельные войска, которые мы не называем, специальные войска.
So Victor and Anton served in Ukraine, and they first participants of this program, and they served, as I know from our conversation, of the Donetsk region. So in Marines and also in other forces, which is not, which is classified. And на Донецком направлении служили, да?
Да, Северодонецк.
So it's they serve in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, so it's eastern Ukraine. Yeah, and now they plan to come back to Ukraine. So if it's possible, I think that we must give glory to our soldiers and also have minutes of silence for all people who died in Ukraine. So let's do that. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work, Alexander, Ben, and Dmitry, and all people who help to all charity initiatives, because I'm mostly work with advocacy issues of Ukraine, so about bills and about meetings with politicians, and also about Russia state sponsor of terrorism. But unfortunately, it's very long time. So really, we work on issue Russia state sponsor of terrorism more than 7 months, and we have huge numbers of, I do more than 30 meetings on the Hill, and other Ukrainians do more than 100 meetings on the Hill. And sometimes we do this project together. So we go to lobby law on the Hill, on Senate and House together, like Americans and Ukrainians. And we also, how we do that. So we have expertise in every group. For example, one people have expertise in child support in Ukraine, other people in law issues about Russia state sponsor of terrorism. Third people have experience, for example, about how we can renew our nuclear plants to do it more safe, or about food safety. And we also explore biography of every member of House, of Senator, and we choose what arguments can be most effective for every member of Congress, not only about party affiliation, but also, of course, because some members of Congress care more about women's rights. Some members of Congress care more about military issues. Some members of Congress understand what we need from list of weapons because they was an army. So in this way, and I'm ask all of you to join Ukrainian Advocacy Days next 3 days. And also to help, and you can, Americans can help to work with your power to get more weapons, to get more money, because if today we have missiles in Poland, it's originally not only our war. So it's from the beginning, not only Ukrainian war with Russia and Russian aggressions, it's our war against authoritarianism, and we must fight together. Thank you one more time for your fight together with us. And now we will moving forward with presentation of ALLATRA TV and their project Creative Society. So it's really about values. So their network do very interesting project worldwide in more than 120 countries, and more than
So the last conference we simultaneously interpreted into 150 languages.
Languages, yeah. So it's really very interesting projects about human values. So what human values must be in the base of public administration, in the base of public policy. And originally we met with them when I, as political campaign manager professional, explained them like what values must be in every candidate's campaign. So Marina Ovsanova she is leader of this project today, and maybe she will tell us a little bit about their project and about other members of her team, and we will listen to your presentation. After that, who wants can join also. Can join us on the coffee and have more conversation. And please, if you have some ideas, business ideas here, or ideas of maybe charity connection, please feel free, because IGAPA community, it's not about theory, it's about practice in advocacy, practice in government relations, practice in business, and practice in also creating society which we want to create, because it's about transparency. So Marina, please explain a little bit more about your team and about every member of your team, because you know them better. Yeah.
То, что сегодня у нас есть. Наши доктора готовы обучать в Украине. Очень большой дефицит докторов. У нас очень высокая экспертиза медицинская, протезирование. И наши доктора готовы обучать. Мы готовы сюда привозить украинских, например, докторов. И и ехать в Украину или в Польшу, открывать эти центры. И вот на этой встрече уже я хотел поблагодарить за возможность выступить и рассказать о нас. Вот. И на этой встрече мы уже конкретно познакомились и поговорили с Юлей. И ее фонд имеет экспертизу психологии. Психология с реабилитацией очень близко. И у нас просто вот так вот совпали наши планы. И...
So it's already worked because they already have one project, and originally, like tomorrow, will be like 10 more organizations which do the same on Ukrainian advocacy days from different states. So yeah, and feel free also to propose Alexander network with doctors all over Europe and also in United States to share experience exchange from Ukrainian doctors to Americans.
Can I mention
Yes,
something? My name is Pete Christopherson, Global Trade Alliance of America, which is based in New York City and Washington, D.C. I just really like the conversations today from the political side and also like the foundation and all the charities which they do for Ukraine. And I really like to mention that it's a really good conversation with our colleague from Ukraine and another person who's talking about Ukraine and telemedicine. I'm just really lobbying between like Eastern European country. I'm originally from Bulgaria, lived 22 to 23 years here in the United States. From the lobbying and the culture side, I like to mention that it's we, like a Bulgarian government and also the United States, we're lobbying here to make a bridge between both countries. We already have a program with the Foundation American Beauty who work for rebuilding Ukraine and also working with the telemedicine, which our colleagues say that it's a begin Shadat. And I will be happy, to get all this connection with our colleagues and be able to help with the government in Bulgaria, which to donate and be able to help much as possible. It's kind of like, if you have any other ideas, I'd be able to take all the proposals and be able to help all the 100% in all the sites.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. IGAPA network, it's open structure, and my information about the IGAPA network you can find on igapa.net. Marina, I ask you to sit here. I think it's with your team. I think it will be better for our group.
So we can sit all together. And just look at the movie. So great. So hello, my name is Marina. First of all, before I will start, I really wanted to thank all the organizers and all the speakers. I'm really, really proud that we are able to present today our project in front of you. Thank you so much for such an amazing job that you do. I'm very, very grateful for all what you do. Like my sincere gratitude to all Ukrainian friends today. Спасибо большое за все, что вы делаете. Это очень важно. Thank you very much for sharing the information with us. It's very, very informative, and I think we all can benefit from our today's meeting. So I'm a vice president of Creative Society. We established our nonprofit not long ago, but in general, Creative Society is the social advocacy, we can say, movement. So our participants are in 180 countries around the world. That's really, really international movement. And we are advocating for the new format of society in which human life will be the highest value. Just think about how everything will change if the value of human life will stay on the first place, right? So, and we will act, we will do new laws, we will interact even in a family, in a small group, in a large group, in between countries, according to this rule. The human life is the highest value. Definitely, we will not have this problem that we discussed today. And this project actually started like a long ago. It started, let me give you one explanation why we decided to design that new format. It started in 1996 when our group of scientists discovered the problem that we have with the climate. We understood at that moment that this problem is huge, that humanity never faced before something like that. And the reason is cyclical process that happens every 12,000 years. So our Earth goes through that cycle of catastrophes every 12,000 years. And we are with you.
So we do what you want.
We are the lucky ones. So we are right now coming closer to the peak of this climate catastrophe. But since our Earth, the ecology is so hurt, we will experience it very, very hard because our immune system is weakened and we do not have those protective mechanisms that natural Earth would have. So after we got this understanding of what is going on, so scientists started to build some action groups and invite volunteers from different countries, first of all, to study this problem, to find a solution, and to design a new model of a society that allows us to unite scientists. Because we understand very clearly in our today's world, taking a look at the geopolitical situation, right? There is no way that we will be able to unite the scientific potential of entire humanity, simply because that's just so many parties that playing games against each other. There will be no way that we will unite them and give them unlimited resources to find the way to protect the Earth. So we started to think like, what should it be? How we can find the new way, the new system, the new way of relationship between people, between countries that will allow us to unite. And it's clearly that should be the model in which wars will not be existing, because we understand that the brightest minds are working in the closed laboratories and design the weapons of mass destruction. And the scientists that are popular right now, and you see them on the screen, on the TV, on the social media, that's those who are just like public figure. Let's call them like that. But we do not know the true scientists, and unfortunately, no government will introduce them and allow them to join the team with other, especially with the other country that they have some kind of problems. So we started to develop this model, and it took us more than 10 years to study all the historical elements to avoid the mistake that humanity was repeating and repeating again. We conducted extensive analytical work and numerous social surveys around the world. Thanks our volunteers that we have in 180 countries, it was doable for us. So we conducted interviews and consultation. We held international roundtables. conferences with experts in various fields. So basically, this model is the work of like thousands and thousands of people and like hundreds of thousands of hours research and analytical work. So we called this model creative society. The name comes from creation. So we create, we're not destroyed. But it's not the name that's important. You can call it whatever you like. The important is the essence of this model. And it also, which is also important, that this model will allow us to unite scientific potential of humanity and find the solution, find the way to stop our problem with the climate. Because Jason will tell you a little bit more about the climate and what exactly is happening right now. But unfortunately, our time is limited today. But we would love to give you this presentation and present all the evidence that we have. Since you understand, the entire research lasted like 26 years old. So we have a lot of facts that we can present to you today. And we need at least to present them all, we need at least 3 hours of your time. So you will get the full understanding what is happening, why it's happening, what factors, and what is the progression. And when is the day of the no return? When, how many
Do we
years
know the
we
date?
have? Yes.
When? Just tell us. We want to know.
2036.
Our today's-
2036. We have
2036
years of stability right now.
But like if taken in like what is happening, we have even less. Because yeah, we never know who will press the red button first. So the fundamental difference of this model is its values, like Katerina said, the value of human life. And today we would like to present this model, but very briefly again, since the time is very limited. And on your table, you have this printout. You actually have 3 pages. If you don't have them, please call Valerie and she will be happy to assist you and give you these 3 pages so you can take a closer look. We will go briefly through all of them. And again, so I will pass the floor to Jason, our veteran, our so Jason, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason. I am a veteran, a volunteer of the Creative Society Project, father of 2. I served my country for 8 years. And I'm happy to be in front of you. It's unfortunate about the topic today that we're all discussing. So with that, I would personally like to say thank you to those of you that answered the call, all of you around this table, not just soldiers, but particularly soldiers, but everyone who answers the call to stand up to oppression in all of its forms. Unfortunately, the topic that I've been given to speak to you about as one of the enthusiastic researchers within all fields of science. My primary job is going to school to be a secondary educator, so I use my research and analysis skills that I've learned through college to help my friends in many of the countries that we participate in and ensure that I attempt to meet the standards of academicians in the Western world as far as statistical analysis goes. So without further ado, thank you again, Marina. The uniqueness of our approach is that it's multidisciplinary. We work together from many different perspectives. Astrophysicists, geophysicists, heliophysics, climatologists, politicians, homemakers, teachers. And out of that, as she mentioned earlier, we've been carrying out that comprehensive work since '96. According to our monitoring data today, more than 6,000 climate disasters have occurred in the first 10 months of 2022. And once in a 1,000-year extreme climatic events today are happening almost every week around our world. Sometimes even a few times a week. In '95, we saw an accelerated drift in the magnetic North Pole of our planet, a shift in the planet's axis of rotation, and an unprecedented acceleration of the planet's rotation. Then in '98, there was a major displacement of our core in the direction of Siberia. The core went out of balance. This abrupt acceleration of the planet's rotation can be compared to centrifuge, okay? It's pushing deeper and deeper the mantle of our planet towards the surface. But an even bigger problem today is the disturbance of the core created a massive gaseous cavitation. In layman's terms, that's where two different pressures interact and they compete, okay? Which led to an increase in the volume of magma, causing tremendous pressure on our lithosphere from the inside, melting and thinning it. Our evidence of that today, of that effect I have just disclosed, is the glaciers melting from below, the heating of the ocean's water at great depths of almost 700 kilometers. This is exactly why the Siberian plate is melting, warming today, excuse me. And the temperature there is warming 3 to 4 times faster than the rest of our planet. In 2021 and 2022, during eruptions worldwide, a different chemical composition was analyzed of the magma that started to appear at the surface. This magma has the characteristic of being found at great depths, showing that this is happening 1,000 times faster than our scientists predicted. Further magma ascent will lead to eruptions of such supervolcanoes like Yellowstone. Now I'm going to take a pause because I am American and I know we've been facing doomsday prophecies every day of our life, okay? I wish I could say I was joking. I wish I could say our scientist was wrong. And as Marina said earlier, that is precisely why we need to unite our best minds, even though we have all of these problems we have been discussing today. They are problems I do personally feel we can solve. These catastrophes, according to the mathematical model that was disclosed publicly to the Rotary Club and at the conference mentioned, and on the sheet in front of you, global crisis, our survival is in unity. We have 5 to 6 years of a relatively stable period. We can wait it out or we can solve it. But the end date for our planet that is projected is 2036. And I will say, that's not including any other human factors, such as other countries doing what they did today, okay? Meaning the launch of missiles into Poland, further exacerbating the political situation across our planet. The reason why I bring that up and that is important is because these particular areas where our lithospheric portion of our planet is thin in these warm spots. And all it's going to take is a nuclear strike or let's just say increased vibrations, okay, brought on by human beings to break those particular points. That's all it will take to exacerbate the situation. According to the studies of ice cores, bottom sediments, and paleosoil analysis, catastrophic events such as megavolcanic eruptions, massive earthquakes, hurricane winds, and massive floods, and continent-wide wildfires have occurred cyclically on our planet They occur in 12,000-year cycles, okay? Right now, we are at a 24,000-year period. You can imagine it's like a clock, okay? Every 12,000 years, it gets worse. Every 24,000 years, excuse me. And right now, we're at that top point of the 24,000 years. And as mentioned by Marina, that is again exacerbated by our reckless disregard for our planet and the ecological damage we have done to it, which is akin to everyone's immune response when your body's sick, okay? That's what we're observing. I apologize and understand that it is impossible to relay this information, but what we know today is that the planets all across our solar system are showing changes, which points to the fact that this is an external source of radiation, cosmic radiation, as astrophysicists and heliophysicists call it, of an unknown origin. And there are multiple agencies across our planet that are studying these sources and looking for this source that is physical in nature, which means it can be studied and can be counteracted because it's physical in nature. As Marina mentioned earlier, it really would take 3 hours to present this information coherently and bring the team before you who has conducted these studies, and many of the scientists who work behind the scenes because of our today's society. You all understand that. I think that goes without saying, okay? We have families to feed, all right? I will repeat again, we have 5 to 6 relatively stable years to do everything possible and impossible to counteract the radiation. And I will repeat again, it is no secret to anyone in this room that our best minds are gainfully employed by the military-industrial complex, okay? And in order to gainfully employ them to the betterment of society, that is precisely why our society needs a new format and relies on the will of the people to change that format. And why we're here before you today introducing that format. This is the solution. I would personally like to thank you all for your time and attention. It is an honor to be before you. Many of you I know, reading some of your works, so I know the hard work you have done around the world. So thank you again. And I will pass the floor to Etienne Wilkins, who Wilkins here will introduce to you a brief summary of the 8 pillars and what they mean.
Thanks, Jason. We can all understand the seriousness of the climate situation that we have on our hands. And we have a further understanding of the processes that are happening within the earth that exacerbate this situation, and why a new model of society is necessary in order to cope with this. So now I would like to explain to you in a little bit more detail what this new model is based on. So I'd like to draw your attention to the 8 pillars that you have in front of you, this sheet of paper. It's a unique document that describes the essence of what the creative society will embody. As Marina stated, millions of surveys were taken by thousands of volunteers, and people themselves voiced what they wanted to see in a society that was beneficial to everybody. First and foremost, they expressed we as people wanted to value human life first and foremost. Now going back, all 8 pillars, if you just look at them, they embody what all people want, and they fit nicely within a democratic constitution of any country, of all countries. And they do align with every core value I think we have as humanity, as a civilization. Okay? Let's look at the fundamental differences on this sheet. People expressed, like I said, they wanted human life to be valued first and foremost. Afterlife, human freedom is also important. Not in any order, but everyone wants to feel freedom. You know, everyone wants to feel safe. No one wants to feel the burden of worrying about how am I going to eat tomorrow, or am I going to make enough money to pay my bills? So human safety relieves that burden. You know, it assures that everyone will have every essential necessity in life that is needed in order to live. Transparency and openness is also something that people value. Ordinary people don't want to be kept in the dark about what's going on in the world. People want to be informed in an open and honest manner, right? And another pillar is the ideology that people want to live with high moral and ethical values. And in that, we talked about fighting wars over one thing or another, but like in the creative ideology, all the planet's resources will belong to all people. Thus, really, in essence, eliminating the need to fight for anything because it'll already belong to us. And in today, if we look at the development of personality, we found that people choose their career path based on its earning potential, right? We find that a lot. I happen to work in education right now, and I can tell you, aside from my good friend Jason here, not many teachers still want to be a teacher. You know, the wages aren't keeping up with inflation, you know, and people aren't really going to school or pursuing their passions. They're pursuing what's going to make, you know, the most money for them to be comfortable. So in a society where all essential life necessities are already provided to people, will relieve that burden from them, okay? And people want to feel justice and equality. You know, that again talks about all the natural resources already belonging to people. And lastly, people want to play an active role in the way society is formed and shaped, you know, and actively participate in the key decision making that happens that affects their community and the world at large. So this is what people have said that we have analyzed to create these 8 pillars, which if it's adopted by the constitution of every country, can really create the conditions for scientists to unite and solve the climate problem that we're facing. And also at the same time, really give people an opportunity to elevate our standard of living so that we can live, well, we can live very abundantly and feel very satisfied and at peace. So guys, I would like to end with that sentiment right there.
Thank you so much. So if you have a chance, just read this 8 foundations through and you will understand what the creative society means. And you will understand why it is so important to implement this 8 foundation in the constitution of all the countries. So all the countries will be able to join and to adopt this model of relationship. And right now, I would like to give the floor to Tali.
Thank you so much. Marina, me myself being from Ukraine and for more than 10 years living here in the United States, working in Silicon Valley, I've been seeing a lot of injustice happening even here, but it's nothing compared to what I experienced on February 24th, being in Ukraine when I woke up to the explosions outside of my house and jets and rockets flying there. And you know, the question I had is like, why are we living in a society that allows wars in general? Because wars, in my opinion, you know, like growing up in relatively civilized world, I was thinking it's something we should talk about, like medieval executions on central plazas of big cities. Like we were thinking, this is savages. From medieval times, they were executing people in the central plazas and gathering people. And this is not a thing because we evolved as a civilization from this savagery into civilized world. But how do we still have wars? Like, how is it still a thing that greed of certain individuals whom we empowered to make our life better, they executed in order to exterminate people on certain territory, and they still cannot understand how we allow this as people. And this is why I'm so passionate about taking part in the Creative Society project, because this is the only project that's offering alternative to actually people self-governance through online platforms, according to aid foundations, according to being to having a human life as the first priority. So it's not somebody's profits, it's not somebody's greed, it's not somebody's lobbyism to get some more money or whatever. Like, how would your life change if you would be guaranteed universal basic income? You know, your kid's not gonna stay out in the streets. They're gonna have normal healthcare, you're gonna have healthcare. Everyone's gonna be provided with normal education, no matter what. Like, how much of a game changer it is if you just remove this fear of uncertainty of tomorrow. And I would say that only a fool doesn't have a fear of tomorrow, because we live in a society which is extremely unstable. And we're talking, there was a gentleman who brought up the fact that we have this recession coming up in 3 months with huge, massive layoffs. When I'm being exposed to artificial intelligence in companies across Silicon Valley and working with professionals who develop them. And I can assure you that mass unemployment is coming up around the corner with the introduction of this technologies of automation and mass robotization. The number one job in the US is connected with transportation. Number two is agriculture. Both of them will be 90 to 95% automated as soon as possible. Right now, the only thing that prevents it is some legal limitations. For example, when Amazon started substituting their warehouses, laying off employees and putting robotization in there, and it takes a robot and costs about $2 million, and that's the amount of money they can make up with salaries in 2 years. So it's very profitable. You replace these people with a robot, you make huge profits, and you don't care how those people gonna survive, because we don't care as a society about being proactive with our legal laws, with our legislations. And people could develop an AI, anyone will tell you. This is the area where we cannot be reactive. There is no way we're going to survive and have stable humanity development if we're going to be reactive. This is where we have to be proactive. So as much as you think, well, some of it might sound naive to you, but if you look closely, this is what our society future depends on. Because if we starting to have this massive layoffs and technological unemployment, it's going to be really harsh, and it's going to affect everyone, every single one of us. And what Creative Society brings up here, we bring it up the scientists together in different fields, and we're saying, okay, dear fellows, you're specialists in economy. Well, let's brainstorm. How do we build the economy which is inflation-free? Is it a possibility? Can we even do it? How do we build crisis-free economy? How do we build a system that works without necessity of worsen crisis to reset the not working model of financial system in the world? Who else is bringing up this kind of topics? I don't hear them anywhere. You know, I have a good friend of mine, and he has a son who's 6 years old, and he says, whenever the guy is not listening to me, I give him the choice between two choices, which I want. Oh, you don't want to wear the sweater. Yeah, which sweater do you want? Blue one or green one? He wanted the shirt, but now he's having the choice between two sweaters because you don't give him another choice. And this is what we've been given here in the US. We don't have a good choice. We have blue or red, and neither of them cares about you and your values and your life and your family. Let's be honest about it. So right here, we have a working perspective model of development of our society, where actually human rights and, not only this is the best thing we can do as to social justice and protection of human rights, but it's also a working mechanism of observing those rights, where human dignity and freedom will be guaranteed by 8 pillars and by ability of people to participate in decision making on global level through online platforms, as it's suggested here. And just there is no no other alternative, in my opinion, when it comes to solving problems with climate, because what we've been seeing for past 27 COP United Nations gatherings, we've been seeing they introducing more taxation, but that taxation doesn't work. And despite all the efforts and all the money spent, the climate is just getting worse and worse. And nobody is even bringing up multidisciplinary approach where we have astrophysicists, we have geologists, volcanologists sitting at the same table and saying, oh, wow, there was a shift at the core of the Earth. Well, how did this affect the magnetic field? Volcanologist doesn't know because their whole career, they're not even studying the whole volcanic field. They study one or two specific volcanoes and they have no idea how it works on different kinds of volcanoes. If we talk about super volcanoes, for example, we're talking to seismologists, they have one simple database. There's like a dozen of them around the world, and each scientist choosing one and stick to this for the whole of their career. So when we bring them together, they cannot even find the common language because they work in parallel realities of completely different databases, which are not aligned with each other because some might exclude earthquakes with magnitude below 4, some might exclude some other ones, and this is why we have such a chaotic field where we don't have the wholesome picture of what is happening with the world. So I think big part of it is also concentration on human emissions because like, you know, when we were speaking to the scientists, many of them said that, yeah, guys, we know that it's not only limited to that, but if we're going to bring up the natural factors, we're going to end up with a thing where people feel disencouraged and they're not going to take action even on the ecology things because they're going to feel like we can do nothing about it. Well, that's why we have to bring up the different model of the society where we can do something about it. First of all, recognize the problem. Second, bring all the best scientists. And instead of working on hyperspeed weapons, rockets that will deliver weapons of mass destruction here or there, maybe they're going to work on something that can actually protect the humankind. And when we were talking, of course, if we take it seriously, and this is known for a fact, even from last year, there was a great research, but scientist Quinn Bindu from University of Waterloo who proved that cosmic radiation is the natural cause of expanding ozone holes. And he was led by his colleagues who have been receiving grants for 20 years, proving that this is freon gas that was banned in 1990s. But the ozone holes don't care about what these guys with pins on their badges say. This is a fact. And excuse me. So if we talk about really counteracting this kind of energy, we need to come up with a different source of energy, something much more impressive. But think about it from the even economical perspective, which was covered at our latest conference. If you have such a source of unlimited free energy, which we definitely need to come up with, it's going to destroy the whole economy because the whole economy works on digging oil, moving oil, transporting oil. If we don't even provide people with a universal basic income before that, it's going to be impossible to implement even existing technologies. We're not even talking about the perspectives of our civilization, which is not impossible. It just takes to actually sit the people around one table and start having a discussion and start raising questions, and don't be shy to ask questions. I was watching a film Francisco, which was filmed by Evgeny Akhmetsky, and I'm seeing what Pope has been doing. Pope Francis has been doing an amazing job of actually uniting people and doing unexpected things. He's going to Buddhist countries, he's going to Muslim countries, and really acting unorthodox, excuse me for choice of words. So this sort of approach, when you're thinking out of the box, is what could actually benefit all of our society. So I would strongly encourage all of you to watch the recent event that was organized by Creative Society volunteers, which was called Global Crisis: Our Survival is in Unity, where we gathered people from 150 different countries. Those are volunteers that nobody is paying them for. These are not political grants, nothing. People join in because they realize how much important it is. They know that they sit in the middle of African country covered with bees and insects, mosquitoes biting them, and simultaneously translating this conference into their language so people from their state know what's actually happening to the climate, because nobody else is telling them. Guys from COP27 gathered somewhere, got their energy from diesel generators, got their food delivered from overseas. I don't feel like these people can relate to me and speak my language, but we're the ones who speak the language that people can relate. So if you even tell me, name me another organization that can actually organize an event translated into 150 languages from the perspective of technological point, I don't know such organization. I don't think it's possible. That lasted 12 hours and had speakers from all different parts of scientific research. Yes, this is important. Those facts that were presented there, we actually don't hear about them on media, not to raise the panic, because if we're actually going to start talking about the fact that volcanoes erupted with a different sort of magma right now, which consists of different particles, which are coming from much deeper below than they're supposed to. These are not your extra casual volcano activity that you have. In that case, we're coming up with the fact that we have to recognize that glaciers are melting only in hotspots. Antarctica is not melting on the Atlantic side. It's only melting on the western side, on the Pacific side. For what causes that? For 140 volcanoes, underwater volcanoes being there and constantly being more and more active. So we've seen huge amount of glaciers melting specifically on this side. Same thing happening in Greenland. We're not hearing these things on the media. How can we break through this kind of wall over there that we only supposed to talk about one thing? Let's discuss it openly. Let's be blunt about it. Let's be honest, and let's not cut the discussion. Let's stop canceling scientists who bring up the topics that could hurt your dissertation, which you made in 1998 and has been living off that for your whole career afterwards. Let's be honest and let's have this approach. I strongly encourage each one of you being present here and those who watching us to actually go on YouTube, Google Creative Society, Global Crisis, Our Survival is in Unity, and watch the conference that was translated into 150 languages, which is 90% of population of the Earth capable to speak. Well, because the message that's being covered over there, it's not about being alarmistic. It's about perspectives. It's about the positive outcome which we can actually reach. And I'm gonna even say more. Even if there was no climate change, even if there was nothing going on with our planet, what do you think? There's nothing we should do as a society. We just keep on living as we do right now. Where it's gonna bring you? Tell me if you really see in a positive future for your kids and kids or their kids in such a society. Me personally, I don't think so. So guys, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for our dear veterans here. I think that brave people like this, the heroes of our society, who risking their lives protecting people, they are true heroes, and we have to create conditions under which people don't have to risk their lives. And those will be heroes who protect lives, who are firefighters and so on, where people don't have to go and kill other people to protect their wives and children. This is what we advocate for. This is what Creative Society stands for. And I appreciate all of you for.
So you can find also information about Creative Society in your class, and yeah, Michael, most active participant of our.
Thank you very much. Before you all leave, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a big event in May next year in Slovenia, where there will be also a roundtable of the lobbyists across the EU. And I'm here inviting also the IGAPA members, and as well you as a creative society, because what you say is important. There will be a sponsorship from our parliament, so the president of the parliament as well. Hopefully also from the new president of the republic, which I think that will be right. Yeah, and it's for us it's an important issue as well. So creative society, you can come and present there as well as you were here. So because it will be international people and international lobbyists and so. And Katarina, you must co-organize this right with me as well.
Okay, yeah.
There will be a pace right from Europe, all the national associations, but I'm here as well to announce that. we will, the date, the next, that means 24th of November, it will be discussed in Brussels as well. And then the date will be set and then we do. So guys, you are invited. This will be in Ljubljana.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but I mean that lobbyists who usually take part in our activities in Brussels and in Strasbourg,
Yeah.
it's different people, which the people from United States, you know, because of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
distance. So we can invite people from our community there,
Yeah.
because we have originally 2 forums, one in Strasbourg.
Perfect.
and in Brussels. So, yeah.
But guys, you are all invited because it's good. Come, you know, it's international, not just big, you know, US is one, but there is Europe too. So come.
Yes.
The idea of this friendship society, you know, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And even, what do you head of this? What do you head of this?
So we have here in US our chapter, but it's the international movement.
Atlanta, Georgia.
They're very, you know, powerful. The idea is very powerful. People are powerful than UN, you know. Because to address 150 countries.
Languages.
And even they didn't do that, you know, at the same time, your values cannot be different. I was equally accepting. The main problem for UN is, you know, this little power. And so we have stopped this framework or Ethiopia unless they, you know, this little power, really, security council, but you still accepting it. This one doesn't have cannot be opposed by rational personality. So I think this is we need to just work strongly and advertise all about this really policy guiding.
Thank you so much. The biggest problem that we see right now, it's the time. So because like Jason explained, we only have like 5 to 6 years, relatively stable years when we can like implement, we can add something, we can change something, and this is very, very crucial. So all our mathematical model that we calculated is actually available. So you can even go to watch the forum and check all the data, all the information that our speaker presented about climate, and you can calculate it, and you will get the same numbers that we did.
Yeah,
So
to
we didn't-
interject, you can pull the data
For me,
sets.
actually, for me, you know, maybe I'm a layman, but in terms of, you know, what could be based on stuff, I don't accept that, you know, from my religion perspective, it's only the guy that knows, you know, what will be the end of this world. But maybe you are around.
What is your religion?
I'm Muslim. But I don't believe in that.
You're from where are you from?
I'm from Ethiopia.
Where?
Ethiopia.
Originally, yeah, originally I'm from Ethiopia.
It's a Christian country which hosted the Prophet Muhammad.
That's correct.
We have a very big following from Muslim countries, and our volunteers from Islamic world, they organize a conference on December 10th, and it's going to be regarding why Muslim world should unite Islamic world and how they can, you know, how the core values of Christian society align with religion of Islam and the unity of people. Why the values are basically the same thing. The Prophet Muhammad, the hosting was I would love to invite you to be a speaker, or even to have an interview or something to participate in discussions along this.
Maybe Marina, you mentioned that you have interest in the project, but people from all over the regions come and to your broadcast and like discuss.
We do right now, in regards to that, I'm one of the participants for the Diamond of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. So we invite people from around the world to share their religion, whether they follow Zarathustra from Zoroastrianism, or Siddhartha Gautama from Buddhism, or Jesus Christ from Christianity. All of the people those prophets mentioned Creative Society. From those that I mentioned, all the way up to the former President Ronald Reagan mentioned Creative Society. The problem is we don't implement it. That's it. And what isn't implemented is the number one foundation on there, and that's the value of human life. Even if you separated all the other ones and you implemented the value of human life, our entire society.
But how would you take into consideration the fact that
There is a gym for it. You don't have to kill people.
well, but I mean that facetiously, but at the same time, that's still an element. And
Yeah, it's very competitive. Like, make no mistake, creative society has nothing.
What's the number one thing you see at
Exactly, people are supposed to be
Well, I'm
competitive.
gonna ask you a question. What's the number one thing you see when you go to restaurants?
Ego testing.
No, what I'm saying is on the monitors, on TV,
Prices.
sports. What is that about?
Competition. And competition is not a bad thing.
So that's actually a very good thing. And we were saying, like, how in creative society, for example, if you have universal basic income, how do you keep people competitive? And what if instead of putting people with bigger numbers on bank accounts on Forbes magazine, there would be people who contributed the most to actually solving the problem of starvation around the world by building vertical farms?
Because of these human nature.
There is the usage of competitiveness of human beings for the positive outcome. If we say who actually contributed to building our society better, safer.
I love your idea. I just think it goes against human nature.
No, really, if you saw, for example, Norwegian practice, people in Norway, no, they more stable. So they have more like stable society than, for example, in Ukraine or Ethiopia.
Yeah, we
So
also
are they
studied those
potentially in the
examples.
crosshairs of aggression that could happen if we end up with this exaggerated?
I mean, we're all gonna face regression.
I think they really believe in that values which they built their public policy. Because first, when I met this team, we do project about what values must be in campaign management, when we do campaign, like I work with Prime Minister then, and with Yulia Tymoshenko, and we discussed like what values must be in your work as campaign manager, because you also give messages to all people. So, and your responsibility for that message, because mostly political managers used to manage with like to conflict in society, not some creative sense. And yeah, and I think now about religion, it's also many stereotypes, because for example, really stereotypes about Muslim people. So it's stereotypes. So Muslim people, they peaceful and like basic rules, as I know, because my husband also from Tatarstan. So it's also some creative, like basic, and it's peaceful nation. But here also in US, some people have stereotypes that like Muslim people they aggressive. Yeah, so yeah, and but it's a big issue. It's a big issue because it's stereotypes which have influenced many people who live here, and I think that it's also about devoted people from.
And that's the biggest problem in our society. Why somebody bring this idea so to divide our society, to bring something that causes like fight between the people.
I said you from technological point of view, it's easier. So if you go and you see focus groups and you see like all people, for example, against something, and it's easier to give a little more money to this against than create something new. So as political manager, I can say so it's just cheaper. And it's
This is the old formula, divide and conquer. Yeah, so
and now on this election campaign, you also see that, like, for example, many ecological problems, but still it's like we like Trump or we hate Trump. So it's not about like how to build this economy. So thank you one more time for your presentation. It's very interesting, and we have this room till 5 p.m. So we can stay here for some minutes. So we almost yeah, and tomorrow who wants, you can join Ukrainian Advocacy Days. It will be from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. on Capitol Hill, mostly in Russell's building. But I will send to our chat also additional information. But it's important to come to briefing to 9 p.m. Because in otherwise
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah, 9 p.m. it's out of yeah, which is can be more interesting.
I'm coming,
9
so 9
a.m.
a.m. we have to be at the Capitol.
Capitol Hill direct address I will send you.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, of course.
You're welcome. Slovenia. And we have one who is good as you get it. Her name is Urška Bogataj. I will let you know because she yeah, of course, radiation. And it's good. It's good to know it. No, I know.
So thank you so much for your invitation.
Where is the
it will be in Ljubljana. Yeah. It will be in May. I'll tell you the exact around 21st. That's for sure. But the date decided is the next, it's 24th. That's next week in Brussels. There'll be European Commission, there'll be all the national associations lobbyists, there will be media, there'll be Transparency International, and it's a perfect opportunity. And you read this chapter as well. I can put it on the agenda. We had some the members of parliament as well, and also potential to review. So for sure, I'll let you know. Yeah. We have someone
Yeah, that guy's so close.
Exactly.
Drop it.
Okay, so.
Well, this brain is concentrated, and I've never seen something like that. I'm now trying to figure out why it's hitting me this way, because it looks a little too sanctioned, you know, like it's not okay, like it's happening, but
Yeah, no, I'm saying that you
but with less training, because it's united. That can be your right or not necessarily mean but if you realize that, hey, this is right, energy and enthusiasm to the point where that's part of why people don't want to have no choice but to just absolutely, because on one level you have people's space or social club, everyone's supposed to that's factual. He's not wrong in perception, but the stereotype out there is Trump is the Republican. No, I think people want to every day is action aside. It was a nice debate. Everything that one Trump is, but they already structure, so let's it was around then he expects to reach for your timing is we'll say some crazy shit. Now, me personally, yes.
I speak German too, which is a very federal easier. This for you is what it looks like.
Something happened.
Oh, God. So this is
So even from like Maryland and Pennsylvania, like nearby.
It really goes to say what works for other places.
Oh, yes, that makes a deal.
Then I became sort of
But if the person
decided I needed
So you had to go through London because something happened.
First thing I did was managing director.
So what happened is sometimes the project
I have her name. This is but she's with the council.
Yeah, turn out about it. Get out of here. And that's 2000. Luckily, it's 2003. I got a call. Get this call. Hey, I need you to go to Iraq. That's whenever I did it here. Go outside and watch.
Weird is the most one you have there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she brought it.
Running, escape, seeing from the
Thank you very much.
We have lots of fun things.
Right, let me know when you come back.
Yes, and also, I mean, about something. Yeah.